Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and especially have more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman, and I'm the founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help build great teams for contractors. I have as my guest today, CJ Sudman from Artisan Direct. Now, I met CJ at the IBS show, and he's a little different podcast. He's going to talk about signs and how to get people where you want to get them, right?
That's what we do.
So tell them a little about your company, what you do, and who you do it for.
So primary business, our primary directive is driving traffic to model homes or neighborhoods or those kinds of things. So we tend to work with, our core customers tend to be larger builders. We do work with some individual builders as well, if we have service in their areas. But we kind of service, we're a national company. But what we do is we're a full service solution. The biggest thing is placing yard signs on weekends for the builders. Okay. What our services entail is sourcing the installers, building the maps, designing the maps. We produce all the signs, ship them, manage that. Excuse me, I've got beeping everywhere. What's the world going on? Ship them, send them everywhere, all over the country, make sure they're installed on time, and we manage all that process. That is our core competency, if you will, is ensuring that the people we work with have people showing up, seeing visibility into their neighborhoods or their model homes on the weekends, to get more bodies in houses.
Okay, well, that's a little awesome because a lot of these are small builders. Let's say you're building a custom home, and you want having an open house to that custom home, right?
Yep.
And so it's a spec house for whatever reason.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
How do you make sure that everybody that knows about it gets it? What kind of maps do you use? Give me advice for a guy. Let's say a guy has a custom home and he's building it in, I don't know, pick a place, New York, like someplace, a suburb of outside New York, someplace, Saratoga City or something. Where do you place the signs? How many signs you need? Where do you put them? How do you get the people to show up?
Gotcha. So we use a couple technologies to build the maps, and so you can do some common sense stuff. That's the way we used to do the business. Basically, where's the business intersections? How do I place a sign out with the direction that orients people to my model home, right? Or to my open house, whatever the thing is. So we use Google Maps primarily, but we have new technology that we're looking at that uses traffic data. So that's something we look heavily at is, you know what a busy intersection, but what does that really mean? Is this the busiest intersection, the best intersection? So we use that data. But again, for somebody doing it on their own, you could absolutely go out there and figure out, okay, well, this is the busy, there's 10 busy intersections within, 5 miles of my houses. And here's a couple of side roads that people need to go on to get to this house. So usually we use Google Maps. We put pins on a map. Anyone can do that. You can use a custom Google, you can build your own custom Google map and add pins to it. And we'll tag them right, left. That's the way we used to do it, and that works just fine. And you can build your own map and kind of build yourself a plan as to how you're going to drive people to your event. As far as
what about dealing with, people messing with your signs, cities saying they're not legal to put out there? I'm sure you have those kind of issues show up, right?
All the time. So again, and this is why we have a business, right? We do the work with zoning. So we'll look into, is this allowed in this area? What size is allowed? How often? When do they have to be picked up? When can they be placed? How many are allowed in a particular area? Again, for the small builder doing it yourself, I would start with what's out there today. Is anybody doing it? Are there signs out that that am I going to bother anybody?
Well, in this case, is it better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. As this is our business and this is what we do for people all across the country, if you hire me to put signs out and I go put them out for you and they all get swept up by the city the next week and you get a fine, you're probably going to be angry with me for that, right?
That's absolutely true.
So we do the due diligence. We do the homework to figure out, okay, where are we allowed to put them? When are we allowed to put them? So we do that work. Now, that said, anyone can do that. It's all publicly available information. You got to go to your local zoning commission. You may have some some county rules, city rules, or, there can be different variations there, as to what you can and can't do. But anyone could do the work. I've just built a business around doing it for people. The other thing that we look at is, so we actually manage the talent. So the question comes in, most of the places where you are allowed to do this, you can place between, you can have signs out from Friday evening to Sunday evening, right? Or Monday morning. That's when they're allowed to be out. Well, I have installers that are going out at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning on Saturday, putting out hundreds of signs, and going out Sunday, picking them up. Now, if you're doing 10 or 20 or 30, our typical route for most models is a 30 sign route. We find that gives us a good enough spread to get people in, but that varies based on density, of course, right? If you're in a super dense place, there may be 10,000 people within 2 miles of your home. So it varies. But yeah, planning where they're going to go, when you can put them out, those are all some of the things that are required. You can do the work. Absolutely, you do it yourself and figure out how to do it, but you got to be the one that goes out and does the work in the morning and at night.
Now, what about the size of the sign, the requirements, how big it can be, what's a good sign, what's not a good sign? How do I know those things?
So size of the sign is sometimes dependent on the zone. We tend to use we have a couple of core sizes. Most of the stuff we do is 22 by 28. That's a good size. We do more of a vertical sign typically, because the higher you are, the better, right? Some of our clients like to use a 24-36, so we have big signs for some of them. We also tend to use a wooden stake, like a pine, or a hardwood 40-inch tall stake with a pocket, and we build our own pockets to go on the back of the signs. So you can easily set them. We leave the stakes up during the week, because like we set them in an indiscreet, in a place where they're not going to get mowed down ideally. You can absolutely do wire stakes and pull them out and put them in yourselves just as well. But typically we find that 22 by 28 is a good size. And anyone can help you with that kind of thing. As far as design, again, it's our business. I have full-time graphic designers. You can do a lot of stuff really well on Canva these days. I think things I would recommend is the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. What are you trying to convey? If you've got an open house, I want a very simple, Bobby's Homes and an arrow, right? Showing me to go left, or Bobby's Homes, open house, Saturday. Maybe just open house on a Saturday, or tour model home.
And you have buy these homes, or the name of the home, the name of the community. I mean, how much information you put on that thing?
It really varies based on the builder. What I would say, I'm always a fan of less is more, right? People generally, when they see the sign and they say model home 4 to 5, or say model home tour 12 to 4, Saturday, Sunday, that's enough, right?
You don't have to put the name of the builder, where you are, their phone number, all that kind of stuff.
Typically, you have a builder logo on it as well. Sometimes there's a model. I will say for some of the big national companies, they don't necessarily need the screen. D.R. Horton, unfortunately, everybody knows who D.R. Horton is, right? Like they don't, that's not, they may be more about, the price point of the models, right? Or maybe an awareness of the model. Just sometimes that we do signs that don't have arrows on them, that we just do awareness signs, where it's more of like, they'll have a join the list if they have things that are opening up soon. Or let's say you're a remodeler and you want them just to research you. Maybe it's because, if you're doing a remodel, remodel by Harry or whatever the name of the company is, they're not going to come tour the remodel, right? But maybe it's, remodel being done down the street, learn more about yours, and there's a QR code or a website for you're driving traffic that way. So there's multiple uses of what, why they exist, what we use them for. We have people that do QR codes on them, people that have websites on them, people have phone numbers. I've kind of seen it across the board on that.
Now, let's say we have a remodeler who I'm working on a house in a neighborhood. Do we, do door hangers? If so, when do we do them? Do we put signs in the yard, signs in the neighbor's yard? Do we send an email? Do we send snail mail? How do we promote the remodel without pissing people off and making think we're a good guy?
Yeah. Door hangers are always a good option. They're not, I don't think I have never been offended by a door hanger. I would hesitate by putting yard signs in neighbors' yards. Again, that's, we tend to, when we place signs, we tend to place them in medians out of the right of way near traffic or near stop signs, things of that nature. I always suggest having a sign or two in the yard of the place you're doing work, right?
Mhm.
It's a no-brainer. It's almost free advertising, and it's kind of a, the Google review is a highly priced thing these days, right? Because it's from a person. Well,
Right,
if I see a sign in my neighbor's yard that they're trusting, Bobby's Builder to do remodeling at their house, well, that says something, right? And there's a good chance if I'm looking for remodel, I may talk to that neighbor. Hey, how did Bobby do for you on that? Or how did,
right,
that is to me, that's a higher value indicator of the quality of a business than, even a Google review.
right. Now, what about mailing that neighborhood? Do you do that or know how to do that?
So yeah, we also do a ton of direct mail through my other company. We work with a lot of realtors and builders in that as well. So there's lots of programs out there that allow you to do targeted small radius mailings. So, if I'm doing a
Like
remodel.
usually whatever, reverse directory, maybe explain to the audience what that is.
So, there's you said reverse directory. Well, you got me on
I mean,
something.
by address, so you can find out, like, gosh, by the phone numbers if you want to, but I mean, what about, how far from a remodel should you mail? A block, 2 blocks? What should
Gotcha.
that be like?
So yeah, again, it's a density conversation all the time. What I would say is if you're looking at, if you're in a highly dense area, 1 or 2 blocks might be enough. What I would suggest to you is you always need to mail more than 200 pieces. You're not going to get to your bulk rate and postage savings until you get to that number. So generally, there's a couple things that can play into that, but I like to make sure that my list is big enough that I'm going to have an impact. I like to do mailings that are 500 for these smaller projects. 2 to 500 pieces is a good size mailing. That's going to get you typically a tight enough radius that you may have some local interest. Hey, sending some notification to a friend. Hey, listen, this is maybe available in my neighborhood. You want to move in? But that's typically what I've seen that we do. Now, and I will say we've done mailings for builders that are, let's say, have a new community at the coast, and they've mailed into a city. We've done a mailing into a city that is like 3 hours away. That people tend to retire at that coast. Does that make sense? And
Yeah,
so we've targeted people with and I won't get too specific, but an age demographic and an income demographic, right? We look for those things. Have they owned their home for more than 10 years, right? So there's some indicators that may say there's a higher likelihood that this type of person may be thinking about retirement, and no, I'm sorry, maybe they're living in an apartment right now, and you see what I'm getting at? We can start to
yeah.
look.
You try to look at the demographics of who your buyer is and then mail to those demographics.
Exactly. Can we get my offer in front of someone who is a more likely buyer of my product than, this person here to the left of me,
Now, how you mail once, twice? How often do you like? Let's say I'm a remodeler. I'm doing a remodel in a neighborhood. There's, I can mail to 100, 200 houses around there that are the neighbors. Do I mail once, twice, 3 times? How many times do I do
I
it?
like to look at mail as a campaign like anything else. Typically 2 to 3 time minimum to see a real impact. Sometimes you're going to hit, on your first mailing, but it's like any kind of advertising. It's only relative when I need the thing you're offering, right? And
Mhm.
if you're on a project for 2 weeks, maybe you hit them when you're out there. But I'd say bigger projects you're going to be on for months. That's a great opportunity. Hey,
Well, let's say it's going to take you, you're doing a whole house remodel. It's going to take you 4 months.
yeah.
It's in a high-end neighborhood. You want to, let the neighbors doing it without upsetting them. How often do you mail, and what would you mail to something like that?
I would absolutely hit them. I would hit on day one. If I have the opportunity to plan this thing, I'm going to
Mhm.
hit on day one. We're starting a new, along the lines of, we're in your neighborhood doing a remodel today. Give us a call, receive a free estimate or a 10% off your first project or whatever, because we're already here. You word it better than that.
Right.
I would probably do an update. I would probably think 2 to 3 mailings for a 4 month project, and
Okay.
keep it. Again, this is spitballing. We're in your neighborhood. Your neighbors trust us. That kind of communication.
Mhm.
Um, Again, it's high value. I think that whole neighbor trust, and again, I would try to incorporate that with You know, you've seen our sign in your neighbor's lot, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
We're already here. We'd love to help you with your kitchen remodel or your whatever it is, right? Those kinds of things.
Okay. And how do you know, this sounds crazy, if the signs are working or not? How do you know if they found you because of the sign, or they just found you because somebody told them to come there?
So we have a couple things that we have done. So I like to use, and again, if you have the time to plan for this and the bandwidth to put into it, it's not, this is why there are companies that do this stuff. So we will use landing pages that are specific to campaigns from time to time. So instead of having, www. bonnieshomebuilders.com, we might have www.learnaboutbonnie.com. Okay. And that landing page looks like the Bonnie's Home Builder website, but it's specific to that direct mail campaign or that poster or just that general campaign where it's, we're in your neighborhood, let us learn how to serve you. That's all the landing page is. And they can click to your regular page, but that link is specific to your campaign, so you can track that. If you're doing phone numbers, I recommend thinking about using a tracked phone number, a recorded voice. I do that with all of my businesses. We're using AI now, so a lot of our calls that are recorded actually generate call summaries that are sent to my managers to review the quality of the call, look at the opportunity to send to a salesperson. We use it for training as well. Using that call tracking technology allows you to say, okay, these 5 phone calls and these 10 website hits and surveys, I can specifically rate back to the dollars I spent on this direct mail and these yard signs and these door hangers, right? So I can say, okay, I spent $7,000 advertising my presence in this neighborhood, and I got 10 leads for the $7,000. And if I convert one of those leads into a $200,000 project, that $7,000 was worth spending. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
That's and that's ROI, right? That all marketing at the end of the day comes back to the return on the investment. And we look at that a lot in the things we do.
Okay. So you're actually able to track where they came from and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And then can you do the signs during the week, or are they all not allowed during just the weekend? Like, does it depend on the county or what?
It really varies on the municipality. Most of the time, it's during the weekend only. I will tell you that we have customers that say, hey, we want you to leave them up all week long, and we'll push back. The reason is as follows, too much of anything becomes a bad thing. So what you end up with is signs everywhere. And you have pissed off neighbors and consumers who are complaining to the city, and then no one gets to put signs up. Does that make sense?
Right.
So
So
even though it's my
if the
business,
sign's up there all the time, people ignore it after a while, I'm assuming. That also.
and it can become an eyesore. And I don't want to be, I don't ever want to be considered an eyesore, So we try to be tasteful about the way we do the work, and we try to be respectful of, these are someone's community, right? And
Right.
you've seen the pictures of, 10 signs in a row with open houses and stuff.
Right.
I will say that we've been guilty of that because we've had so many builders where things are blowing up. But what we try to do is make sure that it's clean. You have the open house on the weekends, and then it's clean, and there's nothing there for the week, for the week ahead. We try to make sure that we're diligent about that. It's a good form of advertising. People do it because it works.
Right. Now, what about billboards? Do you ever get into that at all?
So we've not worked on that. It's not part of our business. I know that it has value like anything else. I would just say you need to make sure that it's a good fit for you. And, if you're talking to someone who's selling billboard space, ask for some metrics. What's the standard impression? How many impressions am I getting for my $10,000?
You can also track that because on the billboard you put a
Yep.
specific phone number and that kind of thing.
100%. So you could do even a different URL. So if we're going back to Bonnie, it could be learnaboutbonnie.com. Instead of getbonnie.com, right? You can use some different URLs, and that URL could just be tracked to that same landing page, but just the URL is tracked, right? There's ways to do that are not that difficult to put to help you build metrics to track all of your campaigns, your different channels.
This may sound like a really bizarre question. I'm going to try, CJ. What is a typical EOR on signage? Is there such a thing?
The best answer is it varies. I will tell you that we have customers that we've done studies with over the years that have gone from no traffic to 5 to 10 visitors a weekend. The ROI is very specific to the builder. What I will tell you is the cost per impression, which is that's a standard marketing term, right? If you think about your Google ads you spend money on, you have a CPM there. If your billboard has a CPM, that's the cost per thousand for someone to see your ad, right?
Right.
Facebook marketing. What we do is it can be one of the least expensive cost per thousands in the market. As little as, like, if you're in a highly dense area, we're seeing, 0.08, so 8 cents a thousand for people seeing your ad. There's almost nothing cheaper than that.
Right.
Facebook's $1 to $5, Google's $2 to $10. So as far as the amount of impressions your logo, your ad gets, well, the signs are a very inexpensive way to do it. If that helps answer your question to some
That
degree.
helps. So, I assume I should always use some kind of signage. Is there any place to go? Maybe it's your website, maybe someplace say, oh, look at, I've got, I'm only a small builder. I do, 10 houses a year. I've got a model home. I've got a spec home I'm trying to get traffic to. I have a remodel I'm trying to get traffic to, that kind of thing. Now, do you ever work for, this sounds real crazy, but like a roofer says, I'm doing a roof in this house, and, does
So
that
we
ever
have,
happen for you?
I'll tell you, we work for, there's mosquito companies all over the country.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of work for those kinds of guys. We've done work for HVAC companies. So yeah, absolutely. The service industry uses our services as well. Because again, it's very much
What would that look like if you're a roofing company, for example?
so we would do more awareness at that point. So that's going to be, Bonnie's Roofing, right? And it might just say, get a free quote now, bonniesroofing.com, right? And that may be as simple as what it is. Or maybe, doing roofs in your area today or whatever. You figure out the copy, the imagery. Again, keep it simple so they can read it when they're sitting at an intersection or driving by. But yeah, that's the way that works. And we would still figure, so we would look at where's your service area and then build a plan where's the high traffic intersections in your service area, and put signs out appropriately just to generate awareness. Think about them in that scenario, it's more of a bunch of little billboards, right? You can spend 10, 20 grand for one big billboard, or you could spend, $100 or $200 a week, depending on what your investment is with us anyway, having 30 small billboards out around the community.
Now, what about people that are storm chasers? Like there's been a big storm and all the roofs are messed up. Do you ever do that kind of stuff?
So no, I've not been in that business. I know that exists. And again, that's more of I would say that would be a direct mail opportunity or a web opportunity more than a sign opportunity, because what we do specifically is hire installers to place the signs and remove them, right? Well, you would have to have someone, I would have to have someone on call all across the country all the time.
Depending when the storm was, right?
Exactly. So we're in 32 markets, 35 markets right now across the country where I have installers. But even then, they already have a route that they run. So I can't say, hey, go ahead.
But one of the things you could do, and this is part of a little out of the box,
Yeah.
if I'm a remodeler in ABC, Ohio or someplace, you can say, well, maybe I'm going to spend part of my budget. I got a budget, pick a number, 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is. I'm going to spend some of my budget building, because I could be very geographically centered. I'm only building in these 3 neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
This is where I'm remodeling homes in this 2 square miles. This is where I want to be. So you could, for example, if that's what you want, you could build awareness by doing weekend signs and that kind of thing, just to know I'm ABC remodeler, and you could build, brand awareness just through signs, right?
100%. That's a great use case. That's what we call an awareness sign, not necessarily directional. It's the same function. It's a piece of chloroplast with copy on it. But yeah, so awareness sign is a great use case where you're able to use those mini billboards all over the place saying, ABC builder or ABC remodeler servicing these 3 communities, right? They're specific communities.
And so that would be, if I have a budget, I'm just going to use a number. I'm doing a remodel. I've got this own community. I'm doing a couple million a year, and I do mostly in these 5 communities. My remodels, 100 to 400,000, something like that. What would it cost me to build awareness on the weekends as part of my marketing budget for my company?
So if you did it for a year, 52 weeks placement, $8,000 to $10,000.
Wow.
So that's for a solid year of 30 signs placed every weekend for a year solid. That's one.
I'm telling you, that might give me a competitive edge because I don't think many remodelers are going to come up with that idea, and that's not much money at all, actually.
No, and this,
That's the price of 2 weeks of Google ads and I'm done, right?
absolutely. Again, I said it's a very, and you're gonna impress over the course of a year, millions of people will see those ads. Well, then again, it depends on maybe you probably have more of the same people, but that's the idea. But the point is,
I mean, what I really like
you can't
about
have
that,
advertising for a year any other way.
right? I look at it as it's just, I know I'm in the right neighborhood. I'm not advertising the whole city.
Sure.
I'm not wasting a lot of money. I know these are the 3 neighborhoods that I want to do remodels in, and I, on a regular basis, can make people aware so I know I've seen your signs everywhere. I know buying and remodeling well. I feel like you're a part of the neighborhood, the community. So you can build awareness actually for a pretty low cost, I think, in a specific geography.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then again, it gets back to the cost per thousand, and it is a very efficient way to get a brand awareness out.
Cool. Well, I think this is really good information because a lot of remodelers I know have not thought about that, or small builders that build 3 or 4 spec houses a year plus some other stuff they do. Because I would say, of the things I've heard, especially if you're geographically, geofencing the whole thing, if you want to build awareness in a very little specific spot, I can't think of a less expensive way to do it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so CJ, say people want to get a hold of you and find out how that works, how would they do that?
So our website is artisandirect.us. Again, that's artisandirect.us. There's a phone number and an email on there. My personal email is cj@artisandirect.us. Reach out anytime and we'll set up a meeting.
Great. Well, to all the remodels out there, I think if you're looking a little out of the box thinking, no pun intended here, right? It makes a lot of sense to me because I know people, where's the biggest bang for your buck to build awareness of my company in a small neighborhood? I can't think of a better way. So thanks, CJ. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.